Hi, thank you for watching this snapshot video. We've got the Swedish election coming up, and so just wanted to quickly discuss the Swedish krona against the dollar and the euro. Also a couple of key Swedish stocks available on the LCG trader platform to perhaps trade maybe on the Monday following the election. So the election's on the 9th of September, and then we'll obviously be tracking forex markets on the 9th and stock markets on the 10th. So switching gears to the screen here, you can see we've got the dollar SEK on the screen. We're in an uptrend, so this is a slightly lumpier uptrend. It's been kind of range bound for a while, but the key moment has been in the last couple of weeks when we broke through this 904 level here. That was the previous peak, ran up above it, hit 925, and we've been into a little consolidation pattern for the time being after having tested that 904. So this is all fairly classic stuff. Resistance turn to support, and what we'd expect is for a retest of the 925 level and for a push higher at the 944. So obviously, you know, we're making a assumption here that this uptrend in the dollar SEK is going to continue, dollar krona going to continue, so more weakness in the krona. Now obviously what happens in this election can affect this trend, so if we do get some bigger pullback within this uptrend, then we would need to see 904 broken for the first time. And then you can see we've had 893 as another resistance level during this consolidation period, which could act again as a support. So if we're going for a slightly smaller pullback down with slightly larger pullback within the up move, then we could potentially see 893. If we get more volatility than I would expect to happen here, then we can actually look down to this more like the middle of this old range, which is closer to 873 Swedish kronas to the dollar, and that's quite a tiny little support down there. So again, still in the context of an uptrend, you can see if we were to draw a trend line, we can still see that it would come in somewhere within this zone. But obviously if we see 873 break to the downside, that would be a good sign that actually we're no longer in an uptrending environment and we want to be looking on the other side of the market. Euro SEK, this is the daily chart as well. It's been a lot more pronounced pattern here, not necessarily so much of the krona weakness, although obviously that is a consideration going into this election period. We also got the Riksbank making their decision as well on the currency. But what's interesting is we've hit this 1069 level, and that's actually quite. You can see after quite a prolonged up period, we had a bigger down swoop than was typical during the uptrend, and potentially setting up a longer term double top pattern here, so in 1069. So the shorter term trend is still positive, and if we drop down to the 4-hour chart, you can see these are some areas. We've just hit the 50 period moving average on the 4-hour chart, and we've got some support just below that around the 1058 level, this previous low here. Then we've got this old resistance through here close to 1053, which could be a next level of support if we're expecting this uptrend to continue. But as I said, we were mindful of these support levels being taken out because of the significance of that 1069 being successfully tested on the top here. Obviously a little short-term false breakout, but potentially we're coming all the way back down to 1047, which is this low down here, which will be probably the ultimate test of this uptrend. If that breaks, then we're looking for a right test down at the neckline close to sort of 1006. Switching gears to the shares market, H&M, obviously a company that everyone knows here, has been in a lot of trouble recently in terms of the share price. Business not really making a good go of shifting online. Obviously that's where everyone's doing the shopping these days, and company results suffering as such. We're 120 is really the key level. We're at some of the lowest levels. I mean, on our pricing, it's as low as it gets. I think it's some of the lowest it's been since going public. It doesn't bode well for H&M at the moment. We had a bit of a triangle pattern, some semblance of a recovery, potentially a bottom in place around the 120, but you can see that the top of this trend trend line on the triangle has held. The bottom trend line for the triangle has given way. Firstly this one, and then if you drew it through those lows, you can see they've been successfully tested on the underside, and we're moving back lower again. So if indeed it looks like the trend is continuing to the downside, but it's that 118.70s kind of low that will be the ultimate arbiter of whether this downtrend continues or not. And then lastly, something that could be a bit more impacted by the election, probably more than H&M, is Nordea Bank, the biggest bank in Sweden. You can see that there's been a fairly definite change in trend of late. There was a quite definite downtrend with a series of peaks testing this trend line. We had a nice break with a gap, you can see there, through the 87 level, through 87 to 88, and we've been pushing higher ever since. There's been a nice little technical pattern with the previous support turning to resistance, then to support again. But what you'll notice is if we do pull out to a weekly chart here, actually no, it's better on a daily chart if I zoom out a bit. You can see that this was in essence a head and shoulders pattern here before we had this last leg of the move lower. We've corrected up back into a zone which is 98, I would probably call the neck of the head and shoulders pattern, up to 100 was obviously the key psychological level. So between that 98 to 100 level is a key potential resistance, the price coming back to test that old head and shoulders neckline. So if there is a bit of a rough result, a strong strong showing for the nationalists in the election, potentially this 100 level holds, and we see shares at Nordea Bank moving back down from here. So watch out for this area of resistance. Probably these obviously got the choice of trading the reaction to the election on Monday, or you can obviously trade ahead of the election, which would be on the Friday. So that would be Friday the 7th, I suppose. Yeah. So that's it. So just four markets to look at there. Hope that was useful, interesting. Don't always get the chance to look at the. Don't always maybe think to look at the Krona for those of us outside of Sweden. But actually, there's some quite prolonged trends going on here, and a big risk event coming up that might be worthwhile trading. Right. Thank you for that. Jasper signing out.